Yeah, let's see what's going on the internet. Al Gaib returns. Oh, he's spotted actually. Never mind. There he is.
There's your power.
It's Al Gaib. What else happened in the world today? Easter, they do a marshmallow drop apparently in Detroit that I didn't know that was a thing. Where is the marshmallow drop happening? Okay. That's the chopper that comes by, I guess. I didn't know this was a thing in Detroit. It's bananas to me. They're dropping marshmallows on them. I've never seen or heard of this in my life. What have we turned Easter into, man? Easter used to be about Jesus. He is the reason for this season. Or whatever it is that we say. Release the people. Let them collect the marshmallows that are on the ground. That are dirty as fuck. Come get your dirty ass marshmallows. They must feed. This dude doesn't even have a bag. What are you gonna do? Put them in your pocket? You got 2 marshmallows that ran off. That's it. Watch out, there's an IED behind that cone. It looks like somebody just left a camera back there. You're stomping on the marshmallows. Oh man, she got the marshmallow jackpot. That's what happened there. Yeah, I guess it's nice for the kids. I would expect them to do like plastic egg drops, not marshmallows, man. I don't know how sanitary this is, but I guess if you like, you know, maybe you just roast them and that like kills the dirt or bacteria or whatever you just picked up off the floor. This kid's eating them. They must taste good. Detroit. We got some weird traditions here in the U.S. I don't know. But yeah, take him to Detroit.
And as for my American friend, he thinks he can infiltrate the mountain of Dr. Crud. You can't scare me, you slant-eyed yellow bastard. Take him to Detroit.
And let him go pick up some marshmallows.
No, Detroit! No! No, please! Anything with that! No!
I hope he enjoys himself. I don't know what that is. Oh, yeah, that was from my playlist. Okay, weird news. This dude almost got killed by a flyaway blade.
Caught on camera. Morgan Norwood is back with the story.
This morning, chilling video of an Oregon man narrowly dodging a runaway 4-foot saw blade just moments after he went into a convenience store.
I mean, obviously it wasn't my time, but it's probably the closest I've ever experienced it.
Surveillance video shared with our affiliate showing the saw blade
This dude
barreling
got
with
lucky.
high speed towards
Look
this
at that.
Oregon store,
That
then
thing would have
striking
sliced
just
his
inches
ass in
away from
half.
the door that Shane Rimke
Literally.
opened just seconds earlier. The saw blade nearly slicing through the wall. These photos showing the damage.
I was walking into the store here, I put my handle on the door, and I heard a loud bang and yelling over here at the corner. Just as a cloud of smoke pops up, and I see a guy fall into the ditch, and a 4-foot blade hurling at me.
The impact to the front of the store so strong, the owner says the entire building shook.
All I heard was like a metal rolling down from the street,
and I looked at the camera. It was just wind. And all of a sudden, we heard a loud bang, like it shook literally the whole store.
A contractor on the scene who witnessed the incident telling our affiliate that the blade may have gotten loose from a lost bolt. In addition,
you think it just came out of the sky or something? Of course, it was from the dudes working
to be alive following the close call.
Didn't think
concrete, big ass concrete blade just flying
I was
away,
thinking
man.
maybe it's my time, but I don't think I would have survived being touched by that thing.
Hell no.
Just incredible video there. So we know a gas company was doing work when that saw blade came loose. In a statement, Northwest Natural Gas calling it an unusual incident. They said that they reviewed the association with the contractor and removed the contractor from other work sites. But again, something like out of a movie.
They removed the contractor from other work sites. Whoops, man, he lost the contract. That sucks. Yeah, banana stuff. All right, let's get into CBS Saturday Morning. There are more than a few clips that I got from them. That I wanted to go over, but yeah, let's ease into this into the exposure here to the news. Those were pretty okay, but yeah, we have limited time here, so we need to make sure that we use it wisely.
Voters in Wisconsin will cast their ballots this state's presidential primary. While Joe Biden and Donald Trump are virtually locked in as their party's nominees, Tuesday's outcome could give us a look at how voters in the critical swing state are feeling heading into November's general election. Torian Small is in Milwaukee with more on how Democrats and Republicans are zeroing in on a key demographic in the Badger State. Torian, good morning.
Good morning, Dana. The Biden-Harris campaign this month ramped up black voter outreach in key battleground states like Wisconsin, but organizers here say there's still work to do.
I wonder why.
How you doing? Good.
Reverend Greg Lewis is intentional about getting black voters from the pews.
We just gonna go to the early voting site.
To the polls in Milwaukee.
You done cast your ballot? The people of color in this state make the difference when there's a state election, by far.
The pastor has long been on the front lines, coordinating with different churches to host post-service early voting drives.
We could certainly make a difference as the church in showing our community the power of the vote and showing that power in a way that they could see it vividly.
Hello, Milwaukee.
Black voters in swing states like Wisconsin were key to President Biden's winning coalition in 2020, but their support could be waning.
This month, a CBS News poll showed 76% of likely black voters said they backed his re-election bid. That's down from 87% who voted for him in 2020. But the Biden campaign believes its outreach has been robust on top in 2020.
So Trump went up in these numbers. I mean, these overall numbers still make up 99%. How is this plus or minus 10 points in 2024? What the fuck? That's a huge margin of error that's possible. Why even report this? So you're telling me it could be like 86 and 13? Or more, it could be 66 and 33, like we don't even know. Oh.
But the Biden campaign believes its outreach has been robust. On top of ramped up visits to crucial battlegrounds, it launched several commercials targeting black voters as part of a $30 million ad buy in March.
As bad as Trump was, his economy was worse.
Trump
Black America felt it the most.
It's not one of those campaigns that you feel is parachuting in at the last minute. They're coming here repeatedly, and they're focused on talking to black voters.
But Milwaukee grassroots organizer Angela Lang says voter apathy could be hard for Biden to shake.
You can run down a laundry list of your accomplishments, but if people aren't feeling the impact of it, then there's a disconnect there.
And Republicans.
I mean, they keep touting that it's the best economy ever, and that, you know, just look at the stock market. It's like, bro, like, what if you're poor and you can't afford the fucking stock market? You don't have a 401k. You have 3 jobs because that's what it takes to make ends meet right now. And then on top of all that, this guy's out here just spouting shit and saying that, you know, hey man, you still got to vote for me, Jack. Why? Like, why? Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense. and they continuously go out there. I guess, is Wisconsin a purple state? I think it is. So they're certainly not getting Minnesota or I think Michigan either.
They're looking to pounce on that disconnect. The Black Conservative Federation says it's coordinating efforts with the Trump campaign to get black men to vote red down the ballot in November. Michelle?
Torian Small, thank you.
I like her shirt. That looks cool. All right, what else is the Biden administration up to? The Washington Post reveals that the Biden administration has provided Israel with a new package of military aid. Details of a multi-billion-dollar arms deal for Israel have come to light. The Washington Post reveals. You know what? Yeah, it looks like we're giving them bombs. We're giving them planes. That is what they look like.
إن وزارة الخارجية سمحت في وقت سابق بنقل 25 طائرة من طراز F-35A ومحرك.
All right, let's just look up the WAPO article. Here it is. I found it already. How convenient. U.S. signs off on more bombs, warplanes for Israel. Despite a widening rift within the Israeli government, the Biden administration continues to authorize the transfer of 2,000-pound bombs and other weapons. What are you doing, dude? What are you doing? Like, what are you doing here? Oh, no, man. All right. The Biden administration in recent days quietly authorized the transfer of billions of dollars in bombs and fighter jets to Israel, despite Washington's concern about the anticipated military offensive in southern Gaza. So the Rafah offensive that they're going to do, which apparently is still taking place. The new arms packages include more than 1,800 MK84 2,000-pound bombs, 500 MK82 500-pound bombs, according to the Pentagon and State Department officials familiar with the matter. The 2,000-pound bombs have been linked to previous mass casualty events throughout Israel's military campaign on Gaza. I'll say on Gaza, not in Gaza. These officials, like some others, spoke to the Washington Post on the condition of anonymity. Man, I'm bad at words. Because recent authorizations have not been disclosed publicly. Why would they not want this to leak? Who don't you want to tell, man? You know you want to tell everybody. What are we holding back here for? Just mask off, man. The development underscores that while rifts have emerged between the United States and Israel over the war's conduct, the Biden administration views weapons transfers as off-limits when considering how to influence the actions of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. So we'll continue to tell him, bad, don't do that, but here's more bombs. And Ukraine, shut up. Go away. Stop bothering me. Don't. Some Democrats, including allies of President Biden, say the U.S. government has a responsibility to withhold weapons in the absence of an Israeli commitment to limit civilian casualties during a planned operation in Rafah, a final Hamas stronghold. Okay, if that's really the case here, a final Hamas stronghold, if that is the case, then why is there still fighting going on in northern Israel, man? Why are IDF soldiers still dying in not northern Israel, in northern Gaza? Like, what's going on with that? You're telling me that these are the Hamas strongholds. You haven't even gone into the tunnels underground. You're over here bombing civilians instead of actually doing the job that you're supposed to be doing. So this is bullshit. This is bullshit. This is just like pro-Izzy propaganda, really. Okay. And ease restrictions on humanitarian aid into the enclave. which is on the brink of famine. They said famine is already occurring in northern Gaza. So the brink of famine overall, maybe, but in northern Gaza already happening. So the Biden administration needs to use their leverage effectively, and in my view, they should receive these basic commitments before greenlighting more bombs for Gaza, said Senator Holan in an interview. We need to back up what we say with what we do. This is bananas, man. The Israeli government declined to comment on the authorizations. Why would they? Just give me the bombs. 4 Hamas battalions remain in Rafah, say the U.S. and Israeli officials. Okay. More than 1.2 million Palestinians have sought shelter there after being forced from their homes during Israel's extensive bombing campaign over the past 5 months, so let's give them more bombs. Biden suggested that a scorched earth invasion of the city along Gaza's border with Egypt would cross a red line for him. Well, that he's already been mocked because Netanyahu came back and said, here's my red lines, and now is using the red line phrase to mock Biden. That definitely is happening in his last few interviews in U.S. media. Back to the story. Biden requested that Netanyahu send a team of security officials to Washington this week to listen to U.S. proposals for limiting the bloodshed. Netanyahu canceled the visit after the United States refused to veto the United Nations Security Council resolution that called for a temporary ceasefire in Gaza and the release of the hostages, but which did not condemn Hamas. You must condemn them and say they have to give up all the hostages and also no ceasefire. That's the agreement that we must come to. Israeli officials have not allayed. That's I don't know what that word means. Me dumb. U.S. concerns about the impending operation in Rafah. But they have agreed to reschedule the meeting in Washington. The White House said, we're going to reschedule it to after the invasion of Rafah, and then, try and figure out what we need to do. But in the meantime, give them all the bombs. The increasingly public spat has not dissuaded Biden from rushing weapons and military equipment into the conflict. Last week, the State Department authorized the transfer of 25 F-35A fighter jets and engines worth roughly $2.5 billion, U.S. officials said. The case was approved by Congress in 2008. What? So the department was not required to provide a new notification to lawmakers. This place sucks. The MK84 and MK82 bombs authorized this week for transfer also were approved by Congress years ago, but had not yet been fulfilled. We got it on the books, guys. We got it. It's in writing. We got to give it to them. I guess. You don't have to. You could always not and say you did. Washington's marginalization on the world stage over its support for Israel has ranked some Democrats in Congress. Rankled? Man, I don't know what these... What is rankled? What is rankled and what is the other word? Allayed. Okay. Some Democrats in Congress, some of whom have called for more transparency in arms transfers and raised questions about whether the authorization of older unfilled cases is an effort to avoid new notifications to Congress, which could face scrutiny. Yeah, this is I don't know, man. This could backfire on what's going on here. First story. We're fulfilling old requests to continue in order to continue to send more. How many bombs is this? This is like 2,500, right? 2,500 more bombs. And also a few dozen fighter jets. Smooth. Crazy. Alright, I had to add that to the post so I remember what I talked about. Alright, where was I? When asked about the transfer, the State Department official said that fulfilling an authorization from one notification to Congress can result in dozens of individual foreign military sales cases across the decades-long life cycle of the congressional notification. We don't have to fulfill these things, man. Like, that's the issue. I think that's the issue that people are taking up with this, is it doesn't necessarily have to be done. Just because it was written years ago when apparently genocide was acceptable in the public's eyes, we don't have to do it. You don't have to go through and, you know, still send bombs to somebody that's obviously bombing civilians. As a matter of practicality, major procurements like the Israel's F-35 program, for example, are often broken out into several cases over many years, the official added. The 2,000-pound bombs, capable of leveling city blocks and leaving craters in the earth 40 meters across and large, are almost never used anymore by Western militaries in densely populated locations due to the risk of civilian casualties. What a sentence. Maybe you should lead with that sentence. Israel has used them extensively in Gaza, according to several reports, most notably in the bombing of Gaza's Jabalia, I forgot how you pronounce that. Jabalia refugee camp, October 31st. UN officials decried the strike, which killed more than 100 people as a disproportionate. Man, okay. What if I just did this? There we go.
U.S. signs off on more bombs, warplanes for Israel. The 2,000-pound bombs, Israel has used them Israeli officials deny that their military campaign has been indiscriminate and say civilian casualties are the fault of Hamas for embedding its fighters among the population in Gaza. Biden's decision to continue the flow of weapons to Israel has been strongly supported by powerful pro-Israel interest groups in Washington, including the American Israel Public Affairs Committee,
AIPAC,
which is spending tens of millions of dollars this election cycle to unseat Democrats it views as insufficiently pro-Israel. AIPAC, alongside congressional Republicans and several Democrats, oppose any conditions on U.S. military assistance to Israel. The U.S.
There must
can
be no
protect
conditions
civilians
with these
on
weapons.
both sides of the conflict by continuing to ensure Israel receives as much U.S. assistance as is needed, as expeditiously as possible, to keep its stockpiles full of life-saving munitions, Representatives August Pfluger, Artex, and Don Davis.
Did they elect Pfluger just because there's like a Pflugerville in Texas? Like there's a city named Pflugerville? We do the dumbest things around here, man. I swear.
C. and Michael Makovsky, president of the Jewish Institute for National Security of America, wrote in a recent column, "Doing so is also morally right and in the U.S. interest.
It's morally right.
Approvals of weapons transfers are an abrogation of moral responsibility, and an assault on the rule of law as we know it, at both the domestic and international levels," said Josh Paul, a former State Department official involved in arms transfers who resigned in protest of Biden's Gaza policy.
Hey, at least somebody's got a conscience.
This is a policy-making process that is fundamentally broken, and which makes everyone from policy-making officials to defense manufacturers to the U.S. taxpayer complicit in Israel's war crimes, he said. The Post's reporting on the new weapons authorizations follows a visit to Washington by Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant this week, in which he requested that the Biden administration expedite a range of weaponry. General Charles Q. Brown Jr., chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, told reporters Thursday that Israeli officials have been asking for weapons they consider important in pretty much every meeting he has been in with them. Israel has not received everything they've asked for, Brown said. The United States has withheld some, he said, either due to capacity limits or because U.S. officials were not willing at the time. Brown did not identify the weapons. Hours later, the Pentagon clarified Brown's remarks, highlighting the issue's sensitivity. Navy Captain Jarrell Dorsey, a spokesman for the general, said there has been no change in policy and that the United States assesses its stockpiles as it provides aid to partners. The United States continues to provide security assistance to our ally Israel as they defend themselves from Hamas, Dorsey said. Advocates of the policy inside the administration...
How are they defending themselves if they're the ones going into Gaza? Have there been any other attacks outside of the Al-Aqsa flood?
Say behind-the-scenes discussions with the Israelis have succeeded in delaying the country's Rafah operation, which they now don't expect to happen until May. But at least part of that delay is due to Israel's military operations in Khan Yunis taking longer than anticipated. More than 32,000 Palestinians have been killed, according to the Gaza Health Ministry,
32,000
since the war began in response to the October 7th cross-border attack in which Hamas militants killed 1,200 people in Israel and took at least 250 hostage.
All right, we're going back to
any increase in fighting in Rafah, a key transit point for humanitarian aid, risks exacerbating conditions across the enclave that the United Nations and aid groups say is suffering from chronic shortages of food, water, and medicine. A massive influx of aid trucks.
All right, that's the pretty much the end of the article there. So yeah, it seems like we're fulfilling previous requests through Congress to continue to send weapons, even though, like I said, it's not absolutely necessary, especially from what we're seeing that they're doing with the weapons that we have been giving to them, or we have already given to them. I think this is ill-advised. It will backfire on the Biden administration. It will definitely be something that comes up. Yeah, let's see what Channel 4 News had to say about it. U.S. reportedly approves bombs and jets.
Now, these transfers approved by Congress some years ago, but they're being implemented now. Officials are keen to point out that they are not giving Israel everything that it is asking for. But I think it's pretty clear from this that President Biden's domestic political calculation is still that it is better for him to help Israel rather than hinder it. And the quid pro quo that the Americans hope that they are getting is that the Israelis may agree to delay this long-awaited offensive on the town of Rafah in southern Gaza, where hundreds of thousands of Palestinians are sheltering from the bombing. But given that Israel says there are 4 Hamas battalions hiding in Rafah, using civilians as human shields, how sure can we be that Israel will wait?
So the bombing goes on and the weapons transfers go on. So does the humanitarian aid shortage, right? How acute is that?
Well, American officials are saying that just under 200 trucks a day on average are getting into Gaza, into central and southern Gaza. That's down from about 500 trucks a day before this war began, so it's clearly not enough. The American Department of Defense has released some pictures showing the latest delivery of aid from the sky. Several air forces, including the Royal Air Force, have joined in with this operation. But an American official has been quoted as saying that famine is, quotes, quite possibly present in northern Gaza already. Yeah. In the meantime, the death toll, over 80 Palestinians reported killed in the last 24 hours alone, and the total death toll of Palestinians over 32,700, according to the Hamas-run Ministry of Health.
Okay, Jonathan Rugman, thanks very much for bringing us up to date.
It's always Hamas run.
Well, a little earlier I spoke to William Weschler, who's Senior Director of Middle East Programs at the Atlantic Council, a US think tank. I began by asking if the bombs and fighter jets the US is reportedly sending to Israel is an effort by the Biden administration to influence the Israeli government's behavior.
I think what you've seen over the last really 2 months now is evidence of the Biden administration having significant influence on Israel. It was about 2 months ago when the Biden administration told the government of Israel that it would not support an incursion into Rafah in the current circumstances without a comprehensive and effectuated plan to remove the over 1 million innocents that had concentrated there. And over those 2 months, Israel has indeed not invaded Rafah as a result. There's a lot of bluster, there's a lot of talk, but at the end of the day, the proof is in the results. For the last 2 months, what the Biden administration wanted is what Israel has done. It's a very delicate game of diplomacy that the United States is doing, but it has proven effective, at least to date.
The US stuck its neck out and said this should be an immediate ceasefire. Israel certainly hasn't complied with that.
Not at all.
Could withholding arms, or at least making them conditional, not be one big lever the US could pull to try and get Israel to do what it wants?
AIPAC said it doesn't need to be conditional.
To be clear,
no
the
conditions.
United States position is that there should be a ceasefire and there should be the release of all hostages that Hamas is holding. To that end, the United States has been very much involved in the negotiations that are happening through intelligence channels unsuccessfully to date to achieve those ends. That's the United States position. The United States position is not that there should be a ceasefire absent the release of hostages.
There's been a lot of commentary about whether blocking humanitarian aid is a violation of international humanitarian law. In the UK, Lord Cameron has suggested that might be the case. The fact that the US is airdropping aid into Gaza suggests that things are not going well on that front.
That is certainly true. The United States, the Biden administration has been very dissatisfied with the Netanyahu's government's approach to humanitarian assistance. Now, it's not entirely Israel's fault. There are a number of other countries involved in this, but it is also the case that the United States has concluded that Israel is not doing enough on humanitarian support, and as a result, has not only done airdrops,
they're blocking the aid trucks, man.
Thus taking actions into
which
its
is
own hands,
forcing people to do military drops that are just minuscule and compared to the trucks that could get in.
Do you think much of the rest of the world will hold the US responsible for what's going on?
I don't see why not.
Much of the rest of the world is already reacting in that and along those ends. Israel's actions, as legitimate as people in Israel believe they are, as legitimate as many in America think they are perceived very differently in much of the rest of the world. As such, the United States, as Israel's chief ally and friend in the region and the provider of many of the weapons, is definitely tarnished in the eyes of many as a result. The reality is that President Biden has done a real profile and courage in its support for Israel because he knows the downside risk. He knows the downside risk in perceptions abroad. He knows the downside risk perceptions at home. One only wish that that Prime Minister Netanyahu took as much political risks himself as Joe Biden is taking on his behalf.
While Israel is getting military support from the US, of course, this huge package of military aid to Ukraine has been blocked by Congress now for about 6 months. So will the US be responsible if there's a retreat in Ukraine as well?
Oh, the United States, if at the end of the...
Hey, dude, you can't talk about Ukraine right now, all right? We're sending bombs over here to these people.
The United States fails
Maybe Ukraine should have an
provide the
AIPAC.
necessary arms to Ukraine for them
so
to
they
defend
can get non-conditional
themselves
weapons
against the attacks from
whenever
Russia,
they want.
then the United States will bear a tremendous amount of responsibility for the disaster that will ensue. One only hopes that the Congress, and let's be clear, the Republicans in Congress that are stopping this change their ways and eventually pass the needed assistance.
William Weschler, thank you very much for speaking with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, not bad coverage there. Yeah, let's see what else is going on in the area. Oh man, what are they doing with those weapons that we sent them? It can't be all bad. Let's see what else is going on.
The Israel-Hamas war in Gaza rages on. Many Christian pilgrims have stayed.
What? What do you mean?
Jerusalem. The 15th, the Israel-Hamas war in Gaza rages on. Many Christian pilgrims have stayed away from the Holy Land this Easter weekend.
What about the
But
Christians?
in Jerusalem, the 15,000 Christians who live there have begun their annual Easter rituals in increasingly hostile environments. Holly Williams has more from Jerusalem.
On Good Friday, Christian pilgrims filled the ancient alleyways of Jerusalem, praying and singing as they walked the Via Dolorosa, in English, the Way of Suffering.
Christians believe that around 2,000 years ago, Jesus walked this route through Jerusalem, carrying the cross to the hill where he was crucified.
But this year, the procession was smaller than usual. Many stayed away because of the Israel-Hamas war.
It's a time of war in this country. Were you frightened to come here?
Not at all.
Kurt Blackwelder is a minister from North Carolina who made the pilgrimage despite the violence and told us his guides have been a family of Palestinian Muslims.
And I love them dearly. I love them all. I wish we could all come together in one spirit, one belief. The trouble here, I understand, it's biblical.
Jerusalem is a contested city, a holy place for Jews, Muslims and Christians, claimed as a capital by both Israelis and Palestinians. The tiny Christian community in Jerusalem only numbers around 15,000 believers, many of them Palestinian, and their community is under attack. There's been a spike in assaults by ultra-Orthodox Jews, including spitting at Christians and even desecrating this cemetery. Father Bernard Poggi is from California, but has lived in Jerusalem for 10 years.
There's a lot of Americans there for some reason.
Palestinian Christians in fluent Arabic.
What's your worst fear for Jerusalem?
Our worst fear is that people won't have a right to pray. Our worst fear is that people will be removed.
Who will do that?
In Gaza, Palestinian Christians are struggling simply to stay alive. Hundreds have taken shelter inside churches, but one church compound was hit by an Israeli airstrike in October, killing at least 18. At Gaza's Holy Family Church, they celebrated Palm Sunday last weekend. And at this time of fear and division, they recited the Catholic profession of faith. He will come again in glory, they said in Arabic, to judge the living and the dead. For CBS Saturday Morning, Holly Williams, Jerusalem.
I think the hardest thing in so many of these stories to hear is some of the hatred that goes forth in the name of religion because there are differing beliefs, and that's just hard to connect.
What else is new?
Right, centuries old.
But it's worth thinking about.
What? What did he just say? He said what else is new? Oh, man. Okay. And you just write it off like, oh, yeah. Like, it's because of the differences that we have in beliefs. That is what's causing the conflict. Not necessarily that they're just bombing the shit out of Palestinians regardless of what religion they are. And then they continue to treat Christians terribly, as in they spit on them, and they say that that's a tradition. So it's actually good that they continue that tradition. That's some really weird stuff. You need a twisted perspective to believe that's okay. I think, at least. But anyways, so yeah, that's a smaller turnout than what's going on. What else are the people that we handed bombs to doing?
And in the Middle East, dozens are...
Hold on. Gotta turn you up.
And in the Middle East, dozens are reported dead in Syria tonight after an apparent airstrike by Israel, raising fears of a wider conflict in the region. NBC's Raf Sanchez is in Israel tonight. Raf, what more do we know?
Tom, this is the largest apparent Israeli attack in Syria.
They're lying. Yeah, you think so? Hi, Rainbow. How are you? I hope your night's okay. Yeah. So I read the WAPO article. And yeah, the U.S. signs off on more bombs and warplanes. I'm glad that you joined me. The new arms packages include more than 1,800 2,000-pound bombs and 500 500-pound bombs. On top of that, we're also sending in 25 F-35 fighter jets and engines. So yeah, this stuff was approved by Congress in 2008. We can't just not send them. At this point, Biden wants to lose. After this package, I'm convinced. Yeah, I think honestly, like he's old. He doesn't give a shit. He's fine. He's already done what he needs to do, and that's supply all the weapons that he can to Israel. Also, they passed it on Friday, hoping no one would pay attention. Does he even know what's up? I think he does. I think he knows exactly what he's doing. He sees that, there's maybe a glimmer of hope at the end of the tunnel, that, maybe they arrest Trump and then, like, he won't be able to do debates or whatever. That's never going to happen. Or maybe he hopes that, all of that turmoil that Trump is going through makes him look like the good guy. But you can't look like the good guy while you continue to send massive amounts of bombs. Do you think he thinks he's being sly? Like he thinks we'll vote for him in the end? Maybe. Maybe he thinks like nobody will notice. But this shit... Okay, so this is the stance that they've tried to say is that the MK84 and MK82 bombs authorized this week for transfer also were approved by Congress years ago, but had not yet been fulfilled. So they're just old requests that we're fulfilling. So we're not going around Congress like we did last time. We're just fulfilling the old order. The order came in, order goes out, bombs gotta go, going into not only what currently is going on, where they're bombing the shit out of Gaza, and they're continuing to. They also stated in here that they probably think the Rafah invasion will happen in May, so that's still on the table. That's still going to happen. So none of this shit looks good. May, and then like you get into the summer. How long is this shit going to go on? Like how long? Like how for how many more fucking months are we going to have to talk about this and watch Palestinians get bombed to shit? And then them use the excuse of, oh, it's a Hamas stronghold, so we got to do it. We gotta send them more bombs so they can continue to do it. But at the same time, we're over here being neutered by AIPAC, and AIPAC is saying that no, all the bombs that we send to them have to be sent to them without restrictions, no conditions at all. And then they not only use the bombs to bomb Palestinian civilians. They don't go into the tunnels, and you're not going to take a 2,000-pound bomb into the tunnel and then blow up Hamas through there because they're a bunch of wimps. They don't want to go actually into the tunnel, 200 miles of tunnel structures that are under Gaza to go actually fight them. They're going to just continue bombing civilians from the sky. And then you have this shit where dozens reported killed in Israeli airstrikes on Syria. They bombed Northern Syria this weekend and killed like dozens of people. How is this defending yourself if you're going far into another country to bomb the shit out of them and then using those same bombs that you're using and dropping them on Gaza also? Like, what is... It's just obvious that this is just like an imperial power that is funded by the United States, because where else would they have all these fucking weapons to use? It's absolutely insane to me.
years, according to a war monitoring group. They say this strike in Aleppo killed not just 36 Syrian soldiers, but also 6 militants from the Iranian-backed group Hezbollah. Now, Israel is not claiming responsibility for this strike, but remember, Hezbollah...
It's wild because they're so bad at lying about their intentions. Yeah, it's... I think it's getting to the point where they're just not even trying to lie anymore. They're not even like, oh yeah, it's because of national security concerns or whatever. They're like, nah, they just need the bombs. I don't know, here you go. But don't talk about Ukraine, though. Ukraine does not need bombs. Ukraine is fine. Everything is okay over there. Stop asking for weapons. As a matter of fact, stop talking about Ukraine, because we don't have any bombs to give Ukraine. Like, what? No. We don't. We gave them all. Yeah, poor little bean Israel. Yeah, poor little bean Israel. They need all the bombs. They don't have any weapons. We got us. Ukraine needs to chill out for a little bit. And what is Ukraine? Who? I've never heard of this place. I don't know who they. What? They're fighting some like huge other imperialist power. What? That we don't like. Supposedly, even though we still take their oil, we still like through back channels still bring in Russian oil into the United States. What? No. That's okay. They'll be fine.
Dominates southern Lebanon. They are aligned with Hamas, but they are larger and they are more powerful. And earlier today, Israel says it killed a senior Hezbollah commander responsible.
Yeah, we are really doing the Ukrainians very dirty. Not only did we send them a ton of weapons to basically kind of turn. I think that's really what the United States wants to do in a lot of cases. Is we never really recovered from Vietnam. Vietnam was a worldwide black eye on viewed as a worldwide as a black eye on the United States, right? We were there for like, I think it was like 20 years. Emotionally, no, yeah, and it was a loss, right? So what we want to do now is we want to give other imperialist countries their own Vietnam. So that way they can live through the humiliation just like we did. So turning Ukraine into a Vietnam is perfect for the United States, because we can unload all these weapons. Ukrainians die. That's, I guess that's acceptable. While telling them not to repeat our mistakes. Exactly. But yeah, the Ukrainian people die, and then Russia has to spend all of their weapons and all of their stuff, so that they can. So they live the Vietnam that we lived with actual Vietnam and also Korea. Don't talk about Korea either, or Afghanistan. So I think that's really kind of like what war is now for imperialist powers, is who can create the next Vietnam for an imperialist power, so they stay busy with that, use up all their weapons, and then also like disenfranchise the fighters, because that was a few things that came back from Vietnam and Korea, right? And also Iraq and Afghanistan was like the PTSD of the soldiers that come back and basically then advocate against war. And even those that didn't get injured or didn't get PTSD still have some mental issues when it comes back to remembering why they were there. Like when you look at it overall, you're like, why was I even there, to begin with? And yeah, the PTSD is wild for Israeli conscripts. Those are kids. They're straight out of high school pretty much. And they're not only Israeli kids, they're also people that come from the United States that maybe don't go to college and then go enlist in the IDF because they qualify to enlist. Our soldiers in France and Britain, yep. It's really, yeah, it should be illegal for other people to enlist into the IDF just because they meet qualifications. But yeah, I don't think anybody really cares from a government perspective as of what happens to these kids mentally. I think they just want to make sure that somebody's there to get the job done, and they'll continue to, get whoever they can. That's why one of the things Israel's trying to do is get the ultra-Orthodox Jewish sect to be able to enlist in the IDF because they want to use them to be soldiers. And there's, I think there was pushback from Yoav Gallant. Yeah, it makes me so mad. Yeah, exactly. People that don't want to participate in this stuff should not be forced to participate. It's really, yeah, Gallant's a freak too. He definitely is a freak. Also, is he as bad as Netanyahu? I would say yes. Like they're two sides of the same coin, right? But I think what will happen eventually is the U.S. will try to get Netanyahu pushed out and then put in Gallant as the new shiny guy. And say, oh, look, Israel's fine. We got this new guy who, has never wanted to murder Palestinians. Right. Anyway, yeah, Israel's over here murdering Syrians. So he said that they killed 36 soldiers? Killed not just 36 Syrian soldiers, so from the Syrian army, but also 6 Hezbollah soldiers. So I don't know if what they're trying to say here is that, hey, Hezbollah is working with the Syrian army. It's not just Lebanon that you should worry about.
Now, Israel is not claiming responsibility for this strike, but remember, Hezbollah dominates southern Lebanon. They are aligned with Hamas.
I'm so right on what?
And they are more powerful. And earlier today, Israel says it killed a senior Hezbollah commander responsible for rocket attacks on Israeli civilians. The militants are confirming his death, and they are vowing revenge. And all of this is raising fears that without a ceasefire deal, this war could spread well beyond Gaza.
So one thing about this is, like, you have to remember, Hezbollah is in Lebanon. Not, like, you're just, yeah, they will get smoked by Hezbollah, yes. Yeah, definitely. That's why they're just doing pot shots back and forth. They don't want to actually go to war with Hezbollah. They just keep threatening that they will. But, yeah, they've been doing pot shots back and forth since like, October. So this action here just kind of puts the statement out that it doesn't matter what country somebody is in, the IDF can reach to wherever they want to. May it be Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Egypt, it doesn't matter. If they can reach it, they're gonna bomb it. So that kind of doesn't fly with the idea that people say, oh, it's just Israel defending itself. It's like, you can't claim to be defending yourself and then go into other places that are not your country and then bomb the shit out of them, and just continue to do it freely as if the whole world is your playground. It's kind of crazy.
Tom.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah, so that was the big news coverage of it. There was somebody else that covered this. Hold on. No, that went the wrong way. What was I looking at? Hey, don't look at that. I don't know what that is. Can't be defending yourself if you're the antagonizer, right? Oh, here we go. Dozens killed as Israel burns Arab city with strikes. Russia fumes after deadly Israeli strikes on Arab ally. Moscow warns Tel Aviv as IDF strikes Putin ally. That's... Uh-oh. Heaviest strikes in months on Syria. Aleppo kills scores. Yeah, you're pissing off the wrong person. I don't think this is gonna go good for anybody. And this is in northern Syria also. Where is Aleppo? Hold on. Aleppo city in Syria. Let's see how far deep in Syria that is. Come on, computer, you can do it. Oh, sorry about Mubot. Whoa, that is way up there. You're like right on the border of Turkey, man. That is really far up there. You're telling me that they have the ability to bomb whoever the fuck they want. And I mean, I already know, I already know that, you know, they have joint bases in Iraq with the United States. I think that's been stated previously. So I don't. That's further than I thought. Yeah, it's a lot further than I thought for sure. That's right on the border of Turkey. That's pretty unexpected for me. Where was that? Oh, here it goes. Yeah, I like Hindustan Times just because they really put a lot of information on YouTube rather than putting it in print. But it's the equivalent of them just posting an article sentence by sentence on a video. So they ramped up their airstrikes, and they always play the same song that gets me clapped on YouTube. Iran-linked fighters surged. So it sounds like they're just going to bomb whoever they want in the area. Tehran and its proxies have entrenched themselves across Syria, so has the United States, man. They've repeatedly struck international airports in both Damascus and Aleppo over the years. Wow. This is why we can't have nice things. Alright, yeah, usually they just repeat the same lines over and over. But, yeah. Is that not his friend? I got a jet. Yeah, thank you. Nice to see you too. That guy looks whack. Maybe he's an android. Thank you for stopping by, though. I hope you have a good night. Alright, where else was I? Alright, thank you. He's just AI in a suit, yeah. Alright, so before I get to this story, let's see what we have else from CBS Saturday morning. Israel declares they will no longer work with UNRWA.
Protest the nation's peace treaty with Israel. Protesters surrounded the Israeli embassy for a sixth day Friday. They're calling for an end to the war and attacks on hospitals in Gaza. This week, Israel announced that it would stop working with the UN agency helping Palestinians in Gaza. The United Nations Relief and Works Agency fired about a dozen of its roughly 12,000 employees accused of being involved in the Hamas-led October 7th attack, which sparked the war. The agency has lost funding from the U.S. and other countries since then. Chris Livesay has more on the impact this will have on millions of Palestinians.
October 7th, the rampage and kidnappings made all the more shocking by 12 of the alleged attackers, employees of UNRWA, the primary United Nations aid agency serving Palestinians, seen taking hostages and heard bragging about it, according to Israeli intelligence. "We have female captives," he says. "I caught one." In response, the U.S., UNRWA's biggest single donor, is barring further funding. That's $400 million annually not going to support the services UNRWA provides, such as trash collection, healthcare, and education. 700 schools in Gaza, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, and here in the West Bank.
Green, blue. If they don't have this school, they will be on streets.
Sophia Ramadan is an English teacher in the town of Aida.
Could this school continue without funding from UNRWA?
No, never. Our main resource is foundation. We could kill their dreams. We will kill their future.
But many Israelis have long alleged that UNRWA and its schools, staffed entirely by Palestinians, are a breeding ground of hatred for Israel.
Infiltrated with Hamas.
One former UNRWA official says Ismail Haniyeh, the political chief of Hamas, was once a teacher at an UNRWA school. It's in such schools, Israel alleges, that children are systemically indoctrinated. In a documentary by an anti-UNRWA Israeli think tank, an UNRWA student in the West Bank...
By an anti-UNRWA Israeli think tank. They put out... They put out anti-Palestinian propaganda. Got it, dude. This propaganda outlet that hates Palestinians put out a report that says they hate Palestinians.
Says, they teach us Jews are bad people. I'm ready to stab Jews and hit them with a car. Adam Boulikos directs UNRWA in the West Bank.
This is broadcast to millions of people every Saturday morning.
But of course, everybody in Palestine is also living in the conflict, right? There will be, lots of tension, lots of different views about the history and about the future of Palestine and all that that entails.
And you're saying they bring that tension with them to school?
I think it's normal.
Some Israeli children also bring tensions to school. In this Israeli news report, an ultra-Orthodox student says, "I want to kill the Palestinians." With tensions at a boil, Adam Boulikos warned.
Was that, what was that from?
Also bring tensions to school. In this Israeli news report, an ultra-Orthodox student says, "I want to kill the Palestinians."
So that was actually covered extensively in the documentary movie, what was it called? Israelism. I watched it. It was just really more in depth of that type of stuff, of the of kind of like the brainwashing that they do, not only through their schools, but also through the the program that they have to bring people to Israel after they graduate. To go to, I think it's like to live there or to enlist in the IDF. So they went through that. They went through the schools. They showed everything that they talk about. So even though this story presents the UNRWA school as doing that, this is something that is definitely being done in the Israeli schools. So I wouldn't say that it's possible that both things are happening at the same time. But what does that help? Like, can we just make that stop? I don't know. But defunding UNRWA has a lot more effects. Nobody's defunding the Israeli schools here. That's the subject right now, is the defunding and no longer working with UNRWA. people will die because of that.
With tensions at a boil, Adam Boulikos warns the absence of UNRWA would make life worse for both Palestinians and Israelis.
There are security implications to this. If we have a large population of kids not in school, you've got a largely male population under age 30, not working, no money in their pockets, nothing to do, hanging out. I mean, this is like a situation ripe for violence. They should be worried. We're worried. I'm worried.
Now, the UN is investigating the allegations against its staff, which it fired immediately. That's 12 people out of 30,000 throughout the region. And what the director of the West Bank office of UNRWA told me is that there simply is no other organization in the region with either the resources or the personnel to take its place. For CBS Saturday Morning, Chris Livesay, Tel Aviv.
Oh man, what a story. All right, yeah, let's see. I want to watch at least one of these videos. Oh yeah, this one. Okay. All right, yeah, let's check this out. I was trying to listen to this earlier.
A ceasefire resolution passes at the United Nations. But what difference does it make when Israel will not honor it and the U.S. calls it non-binding? In Gaza, the horrors of ethnic cleansing are compounded by Israeli surveillance technology. And Narendra Modi's re-election campaign in India, powered by an army of foot soldiers on the ground and a messaging blitz on WhatsApp.
Sorry, what's happening? What's that?
This past week's United Nations Security Council resolution demanding a ceasefire in Gaza, the first to do so, is significant, although not for the reasons its authors may have intended. The passage of the resolution at the highest body of the UN, with the US declining to use its veto, could mark a pivotal moment in Israel's increasing international isolation. For its Western backers, the fact that Israel, through its continued bombardment and starvation of Palestinians, is defying that resolution makes their role that much harder to defend. In the Israeli media, the opposition to the UN vote is almost unanimous. More striking is the lack of interest from American news outlets. The implications this story raises are a little uncomfortable for them as well. They hit close to home. Because a fallacy has been exposed, the one about the US-led international rules-based order, in which the rules are selectively applied.
It's very true. The rules apply to the people that we want them to apply to, but they do not apply to the US and its allies.
Will those in favor of the draft resolution please raise their hand?
It was the ultimate mixed message sent from Washington to Tel Aviv that upon examination amounts to some cynical politics.
Abstention.
For at least 32,000 Palestinians in Gaza, including those who have been starved to death in front of our eyes, the ceasefire resolution that passed at the United Nations Security Council this past week comes too late. For those still getting killed by Israel's bombing of Rafah, the patients and medical staff at Al-Shifa Hospital still getting shot by Israeli soldiers, it has had no discernible effect. After vetoing 3 previous ceasefire resolutions, the American government finally allowed this one, which would last just 2 weeks, to carry. But the US's ambassador...
So we vetoed 3 of them. We also proposed our own that said a 6-week ceasefire would need to take place. That got shot down by Russia and China. And then within the next week, Russia and China also experienced terrorist attacks. That was kind of weird. And then we just abstained from the most recent one, and that one technically passed. And but the U.S. said the ceasefire was non-binding. I think it was the Secretary of State, or was it the one of the press representatives talking to the press, said that, oh yeah, it was either Jack Kirby or Matt Miller that said, oh yeah, that stuff doesn't apply. It's non-binding. Nobody has to actually abide by it. So that just shows that, these rules only apply to the nations that we call belligerents, but it doesn't apply. The rules don't apply when it's applied to somebody that is the U.S. or a U.S. ally.
To the UN then argued, incorrectly according to legal experts, that unlike every other resolution the Security Council has ever passed, this one was in a category of its own, that it was somehow non-binding.
We fully support some of the critical objectives in this non-binding resolution.
I hope she was being merely rhetorical, because she certainly can't be speaking from a legal perspective. All UN Security Council resolutions are binding. The UN Charter makes that perfectly clear. It then takes another resolution to determine what actions will be taken if the parties defy it, as Israel has said it's going to do. But whether or not it's enforced, it's certainly binding as a matter of law.
If the Americans are arguing that this is a non-binding resolution, they are winking at Netanyahu by saying you really don't have to implement it. The message to the Israelis is that you can carry on with the war until you achieve whatever objectives you have in mind.
I don't think Benjamin Netanyahu cares much about the international community, the United Nations Security Council, the UN. They've made it clear within minutes of the resolution passing that the Israelis have no intention of abiding by it. And indeed, less than 24 hours after the passage of that resolution, about 17 Palestinians were killed in an Israeli bombardment with scores of others injured. So the message is clear. Israel has no intention of abiding by Resolution 2728's call.
Yeah, where's the resolution now? How has it been applied at all?
The Netanyahu government put on a display of outrage over the Biden administration's refusal to veto the resolution.
And that's the one thing that
by
did
initially
happen.
Canceling a visit by an Israeli delegation to Washington before quietly rescheduling it. It could have recalled its defense minister, Yoav Gallant, who was already in D.C. shoring up more American arms shipments to Israel. It did not. Other political figures, like Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, dismissed the UN as anti-Semitic. This in a country that owes its very existence to the United Nations.
Right.
On the Israeli airwaves, the calls for Palestinian blood keep coming.
Yep.
And partisan domestic politics are also a big part of the mix.
That dude said Biden doesn't tell us what to do.
October 7th, where you have a deeply polarized society. The anti-Bibi camp, the demonstrations every week, and the pro-Bibi camp. The reaction splits along those lines. What you will see from journalists in the anti-Bibi camp is, aha! Here we have Bibi destroying the reputation of Israel.
אנחנו מסתכסכים עם בעלת הברית הזאת באמצע המלחמה. אפשר לריב עם ארצות הברית, מותר לריב עם ארצות הברית, על הקשקוש הזה, זה פשוט בלתי מתקבל על הדעת.
For the other side.
What did he say there?
Destroying the reputation of Israel.
We're quarreling with the U.S. in the middle of a war? Question mark.
מסתכסכים עם בעלת הברית הזאת באמצע המלחמה. אפשר לריב עם ארצות הברית.
They, the Netanyahu government, are allowed to fight with the U.S., but on this nonsense, it's unacceptable. Just let us bomb who we want to. And shut up.
For the other side, this is dangerous UN, America losing its way.
המדינה שמובילה את העולם החופשי חברה היום לגרועות שבמדינות, לגרועים שברודנים, לרצחניים שברודנים נגד מדינת ישראל. זה מה...
Who's the guy who can stand up to this? You guessed it. Benjamin Netanyahu.
Oh, of course, yeah, he's your savior.
What stands out in the American media coverage of this story is the noticeable lack of it. For the U.S. to fail to side with Israel at the UN is almost unheard of, and
no
is
coverage.
Certainly newsworthy. Couple that with the legal side of the story. The U.S. arguing that a Security Council resolution is somehow not binding. One would expect journalists to test that position, pick it apart. We're not seeing that. Neither are American news consumers. And, like Israel, domestic politics in the U.S. are having an impact.
There has been a great deal of lack of interest in American media, especially the so-called liberal media in the United States regarding the resolution. The Biden administration is trying to avoid the fallout of the abstention, and therefore media that are supportive of the Democratic Party made sure that they really did not dedicate so much time and coverage so that they would minimize any possible repercussions that would be exploited by their opponents in the Republican Party, especially a few months before the presidential elections.
The lack of coverage, it's consistent with the manner in which the question of Palestine has been represented in the West, in mainstream media, and that has basically been through the prism of an Israeli lens.
You're not Hamas. Israel is a democracy, and as a Jewish state, supports and believes in every life mattering, and so.
And this is matched in Canadian and United Kingdom and other Western states' foreign policies. It's harder for the Western mainstream media to continue with their biased coverage, in large part because you have the proliferation of social media from the Gazan street to the rest of the world.
And because of the extent to which mainstream media in particular is very sensitive about being criticized from Israel and its right-wing supporters in particular, it's been shy to highlight actions that are deemed to be critical of Israel.
He's now actually supporting genocide.
Okay, if we can maybe just avoid that language if that's okay for now, because that is something that may offend some people.
And obviously, a U.S. vote of abstention on the Security Council resolution demanding a ceasefire would certainly be something that they would wish to ignore or minimize or sweep under the rug.
Among the other stories getting swept under, Israeli forces raiding hospitals in Gaza, such as Al-Shifa, producing horrific testimonies of the cold-blooded execution of Palestinians, including 13 children.
قالوا لنا عليكم الأمانة بتطلع بتروح على الجنوب وقفنا صاروا يطخوا كلنا انبطحنا بعدين صاروا يتسلوا علينا واحد واحد بالقناص.
There was that aerial assassination of 4 young, unarmed Gazans, Israeli drone footage obtained by Al Jazeera, and widespread allegations of the systemic sexual assault and humiliation of Palestinian women by Israeli soldiers, some of whom have also been accused of rape. American and Western news outlets were all over such stories, many of which were later debunked when the accused were members of Hamas, the alleged victims were Israeli, and the date was October 7th.
The plausible genocide taking place in Gaza is unique in human history. Events on the ground are being transmitted in real time to the world as people are being killed and starved and so on. And that coverage that is coming from below is challenging the Western media coverage on these things.
The Western media, even subconsciously, is aware that it is feeding into the narrative of the demise of its own standing. Outside of a Western space, it's done. No one takes seriously Western claims to be standing up for international law. No one wants to hear it. After Gaza, the world will not be lectured to. There's no moral soapbox to stand on. It has dissolved away in the double standards and the naked transparency of the hypocrisy over Gaza. That leaves us with a real problem. We do not have a space that we can go to.
Right.
Last year, Amnesty International revealed that Israel was using facial recognition systems in the West Bank to entrench its occupation of Palestinians there. New details have now emerged about the technology that Israeli soldiers are using in Gaza, and Tarek Nafa is here with more.
Well, for months now, we've heard reports and seen videos of Palestinians forced from their homes, crossing checkpoints, where they are scanned by Israeli cameras.
What?
Some of these videos are truly dystopian. In addition to being watched, Palestinians are also harassed by Israeli forces. This week, a New York Times piece revealed more information about the mass surveillance Israel has deployed on Palestinians in Gaza. According to Israeli intelligence officials who spoke to the Times anonymously, it's part of an expansive and experimental effort to collect and catalogue the faces of Palestinians without their knowledge or consent. Developed by a private Israeli company called Coresight, Israeli officials say the system was initially used to search for Israeli captives in Gaza, but has since been used on a much wider scale to hunt down Hamas suspects. One of the problems with this kind of technology, as one Israeli officer confirms, is that it routinely gets it wrong. With Israeli soldiers accused of abusing, torturing, and executing Palestinians in Gaza, the consequences of being incorrectly identified as a Hamas fighter can cost you your life. The Israeli military has always used Gaza as a lab in which it can test and develop new ways of killing or spying on Palestinians. Artificial intelligence is reportedly being used to generate targets in Gaza, facilitating what one former intelligence officer has called a mass assassination factory. We've also seen several videos of Israeli drones shooting at and killing unarmed Palestinians. All of this technology has turned Gaza into a hellscape in which at least 32,500 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli forces.
Thank you, Tarek. In just under 3 weeks' time, on April 19th, India...
So, same thing that the cops are doing in the United States, basically, right? You know, doing facial recognition and arresting the wrong people. And then, just kind of terrorizing the public in general.
Will begin a 6-week-long election process for its next national government. It will all culminate on June 1st, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi is expected to win an historic third term in office. Modi's popularity ratings are high. Many of his opponents are mired in corruption cases filed by Modi's government.
This is going to be about Modi.
There's
I'm
the
not
news.
really interested about
Mainstream
Modi,
outlets
but,
in India have been almost entirely
like
captured by Modi's party, the BJP, churning out coverage that ranges from the sycophantic to the openly pro-government. And that servile media landscape may not be the most powerful weapon in the BJP's arsenal. It also has a formidable get-out-the-vote machine that combines an extensive volunteer network with the power of WhatsApp to influence voters.
Yeah, I've seen WhatsApp being used in a lot of campaigns where they just kind of flood your messages and continue to do that. But yeah, last video here. I did want to watch this one. It's just kind of long. Imperialism on steroids. Hyper-imperialism and the U.S. NATO's dangerous and decadent new stage. I love VJ personally. I think he has a lot of great content, especially when they get him talking about a subject like this. He's always a content machine. But yeah, let's see Dmitry Lascaris going through Baghdad. So see what he has to say.
This is Dmitry Lascaris coming to you on March 30th, 2024. I am in the heart of Baghdad in Iraq. I have arrived here within the past 24 hours. Let me go down the street where there's less traffic. And this is the 6th stop on my month-long journey in West Asia. This trip began at the beginning of March in Cyprus, where I visited the outskirts of the Akrotiri military base of the United Kingdom, which has been used for an assortment of crimes and aggressions, currently the bombardment of Yemen and the supplying of Israel's genocidal regime. From there, I went to Qatar and happened to gain admission to a major weapons bazaar called Dimdex. I covered that extensively. From Qatar, I went to Amman, Jordan. I attended a protest outside the Grand Husseini Mosque, where thousands of indignant Jordanians, many of them of Palestinian origin, gathered to denounce Israel and the Jordanian monarchy's abject complicity with the genocidal regime. From there, I entered Palestine by land across the Allenby Bridge. Frankly, was surprised to gain admission in light of my many years of outspoken criticism of Israel's apartheid regime and now genocidal regime.
They don't know who he is.
I
doesn't have enough subscribers on
in the
YouTube.
refugee camps situated in the occupied West Bank, went to the border of Gaza, traveled to Eilat on the Red Sea to find out that it had been effectively turned into a ghost port by the Red Sea.
Yeah, Eilat was a ghost town, man, in that video. Like, there was nobody there. There was no ships. There was nothing going on.
Militant activities of the Yemeni movement Ansar Allah. And from occupied Palestine, I went to Beirut. I spent a good deal of time in the border areas, witnessing the damage that Israel has inflicted upon civilian infrastructure. And then I arrived in Baghdad late last night, and I've been here for, as I think I've indicated, for less than 24 hours. And I'm going to be meeting here with people who, consistently with the theme of this trip, have been involved in organized resistance to American hegemony and Israeli domination of the region. I've tried to do that in every country where I've gone. And frankly, my ultimate goal, I was very gratified to have been permitted to enter Palestine and to see what I saw. Not that it was easy, it was very difficult to witness what I witnessed and to hear what I heard. But nonetheless, it was important to bear witness. And there's one country, and no disrespect intended to the countries I've visited thus far, where I really would like to end this trip, and that's Yemen. And I have, frankly, left no stone unturned in my efforts to get into Yemen. And I still have one hope. It seems like a reasonably good hope. I'm waiting day by day for the Yemeni authorities to advise me whether or not I'll be permitted to enter the country. And to be clear, the part of the country I want to visit is the part that's controlled by Ansar Allah.
Dude, that'd be so cool.
I'm not particularly interested in visiting the parts of the country that are controlled by puppets of the Saudi autocracy. You can see here, I'm right
I like Dimitri, he knows exactly what's up.
Right beside the river that runs through Baghdad. I'm embarrassed to say that I don't know off the top of my head whether that's the Tigris or the Euphrates. I think it's the Euphrates, but
that is Euphrates.
I need to brush up on my Iraqi geography. I have obviously virtually no experiences in this country. I've never been here before, but a few things have stood out for me in the short time that I've been here. First of all, there is almost nobody who speaks English, which frankly I regard as a good thing. But at the same time,
that's a good point.
There are American and European corporations everywhere.
Really?
My God, it's amazing.
Wonder why.
They seem to dominate the economy. I mean, there are a lot of small shops,
Wonder
local
why.
shops, but major Western corporations are all over the city, at the parts of the city that I've seen thus far. Another thing that has struck me is that on several occasions in the short time that I've been here, I've seen posters erected in honor of the top Iranian general Qasem Soleimani, who was assassinated, or really more accurately murdered, in cold blood by the Trump administration, that paragon of human rights and international law, in 2019,
set us back decades
almost
in
igniting
relations
an absolutely
with Iran.
devastating war between Iran and the United States.
Iran.
Unfortunately, cooler heads prevailed. The
can't
Iranians,
pronounce anything
there's plenty
right,
you
can
can
we?
criticize in the government of Iran. I don't deny that for 1 second. But when you look at all the provocations that they have suffered, the sanctions, the cyber attacks, the killing of their military personnel in Syria, where they have been invited by the internationally recognized government to be. The terrorist attacks on their own soil, which, although their provenance isn't entirely clear, may well have been orchestrated by the United States and or Israel and or their proxies. When you look at all that the U.S. and its Western vassals and its Israeli genocidal proxy have inflicted on Iran, it's actually something that should merits our commendation, not our condemnation, our commendation that that government, whatever you may think of it, has thus far shown relative restraint. In any event, the juxtaposition of these signs of America's corporate presence here and memorials to Qasem Soleimani, deemed by the United States government to be an arch enemy of the West, it's kind of surreal, frankly. As I spend more time here and talk to the people of Iraq, as many as I can meet and hear from, maybe I'll gain more insight into this. The other thing I've noticed is that there seems to be quite a bit of construction here. So hopefully what I'm going to hear as the country has begun to recover economically from the disastrous, even genocidal impacts of America's decades-long sanctions regime, followed by a criminal war of aggression. I'm going to get to a quieter place where I'm going to continue this video by offering you my rant of the week. I'm signing off for now.
Awesome. Awesome insight. Awesome video. Just walking through a city really kind of brings things into perspective for a person. I've walked all around Mexico City. It was fucking fantastic. I love Mexico City. This looks pretty cool. All right, I think that's enough for me right now. I'm just gonna call it and see what happens tomorrow. I wanted to go to bed on time and check out the news that hits tomorrow morning, who's gonna be on Meet the Press. Let's see. Let's get a look as to what's going on tomorrow. Meet the Press. Who are they gonna have on? James Clyburn and Don Bacon. NBC, we don't like having Republicans on our channel, but we will interview them every week, daily, and make sure that they do have a voice here. Ronald McDaniel, no. Mr. Bacon, definitely. So that guy will be on Meet the Press tomorrow. Let's see what's going to be on Face the Nation. Face the Nation. Oh, I still got it right. Close enough. Let's see. They will have Cindy McCain. Alright, gonna have Cindy McCain on there. Okay. Ongoing humanitarian disaster. We'll hear from the head of the World Food Program, Cindy McCain. Okay. And then, Mike Turner. He's a Republican. Yeah, I guess the Pope's not looking too good. He's skipping the Friday thing. But yeah, this is information from yesterday. And they're gonna have Mayo Pete on there. And Joe Lieberman is still dead. Thank God. Alright, and then so it's Face the Nation, Meet the Press, and then this week, I think. Yeah, this week, ABC. Let's see what they're gonna have. Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay. Chris Van Hollen, U.S. Senator from Maryland. Former CENTCOM Commander General Frank McKenzie, Ukrainian Archbishop Britt Clement, as foreign correspondent. All right, yeah, that one might be interesting. Let's look at the
Sunday morning on ABC's This Week. Sunday morning, breaking new reports on the Baltimore Bridge collapse, the investigation, and what's next for rebuilding, and new ISIS attacks after the terror that happened in Moscow. What's being done here to keep Americans safe? Sunday morning on ABC.
What? Oh boy. Okay. All right. Man, what a time. The round table. General Frank McKenzie, former CENTCOM Commander, CERT, Democratic Senator from Maryland. We're going to interview the boat. This is exhausting. All right, good enough for me. I'm going to call it there. I will look forward to what happens tomorrow. I don't think there's going to be much going on from this. I think probably... why can't I look at Mackenzie? Or why can't I look at Dana Bash? Oh, it's just Twitter not working properly. Got it. Twitter is always broken. That's nice. All right. Yeah, that's it for me. I'm going to call it here, and I'll see you next time. I might stream tomorrow, depending on what comes up from those shows, if there's anything good, but doesn't seem like there will be. Anyway.